Hi there, I'm Ian Willoughby, and this is episode 19 of Czech Next Wave, a podcast by the Czech Centres Network and Radio Prague International. My guest this time is Pavel Fuksa, a highly successful graphic designer, illustrator, and creative director. Pavel's amazing client list is like a who's who of top international brands, including names such as Nike, Facebook, Lego, and Google. But as you will hear very soon, Pavel Fuksa is also behind loads of other fascinating projects. Enjoy our chat now in this edition of Czech Next Wave. My first question, Pavel, is what originally led you into the field of design?
I've always been amazed by the varieties of graphic design that surrounded me, like all the overall basic ephemeric stuff, like book covers, LP covers, opening items on Czechoslovak TV, stuff like that. So I've always been amazed and grabbed by it, and I wanted to know how these things are done. I wanted to take part. I wanted to express my own views and visions into that. So it all started like at the age of 5 or 6. I was a very busy, very lively, sort of a young Sheldon-esque child. So I've started creating my own mushroom atlas or fictional maps of the world, stuff like that. And at the age of 15 or 16, I slowly started realizing that it's not all fun, that it's some hard work as well in it. And I've just kept going. I've learned how to work with the real software. I've learned how to which books to read, what websites to follow and watch, and I've slowly started getting into the real world of graphic design and advertising as well.
If we could speak about your style, it seems to me to draw on the past, even though that gives it a fresh spin. Is that fair? Are you mining the past for designs?
Yes, I am. And the main reason for that is that I don't know how to paint or draw things, especially people, so they would look lifelike. There was always a big burden that I felt in my career. And during the entry exams on the graphic design universities and colleges, that always worried me, that I need to find a way around it, around those demands or requirements. So I've somehow been led to this style because it uses a lot of imagination. It uses a lot of minimalism. It cuts to the basics. There are no ornaments. There are no extra elements. But the thing is that quite a lot of people perceive me as an illustrator. I'm not an illustrator. The illustration part is, I would say, like 10% of my career. The rest of it is, I would say, creative direction or art direction or starting each project with a clean sheet of paper. I, of course, feel very comfortable in steering the wheel of the project towards the style I feel the most comfortable in, i.e. the sort of a 50s, 60s style. But I also felt in last years that this having such particular and recognizable style is kind of dragging me back, holding me back. So that's why I'm trying hard to find new ways of expressing that talent or brain of mine.
You mentioned the 50s and the 60s. This kind of touches on my next question, which was going to be, when was the kind of pinnacle of Czechoslovak design for you?
I still feel, despite public, I wouldn't say hatred, but disillusion, I would feel that late 50s and the whole 60s are the pinnacle of Czechoslovak graphic design. I personally like the 70s and 80s as well, because all of these decades had their particular approach and significant or unique style that is somehow easy to be replicated using modern approaches of software.
And are you a collector? Do you collect old Czechoslovak design?
Not really. Just I have a huge folder on my desktop where I keep it, but I'm not a big collector of things like old posters or old LP covers, stuff like that. I have a lot of books from that era.
Typically, how do you go about creating a work? For example, how much for you is about the idea, the light bulb moment, and how much is it about the actual execution and the sweat, so to speak?
Yeah. The first part, the inventing part, is usually rather short with me. And then I spend a lot of time finishing it, finalizing it, playing with the pixels and stuff like that. It's also what I'm, in my agency, I'm trying to avoid, because the second part is always way more time demanding and time consuming than the actual idea creation, right? For me, the best approach would be to come up with the idea and then talk or get the project to my colleagues and supervise them as they're finishing it. Because right now I feel that the execution part has overwhelmed me somehow a bit.
You have an amazing client list. It's basically a who's who of all major, not all, but many major corporations: Lego, Nike, Facebook, Google.
Yes.
How has that worked? Have you worked for them through agencies or directly, or how has that been?
Both. I worked with some of the clients. I worked with when I during my stints with advertising agencies, where I worked as a creative director, meaning I've led the teams of creatives to work on these clients and projects. But majority of these, they approach me through either directly or through one of my two agents. So they've approached me. They said, we like your approach, we like your way of thinking, we like your way of making things. Could you please help us with this and that? And I usually say yes.
Is there a lot of pressure at that level?
To be honest, not really. No, I tend to work with foreign clients as they're more susceptible to allowing me to express, actually show why they've chosen me, rather than, I wouldn't say it's a rule with Czech clients, but it usually happens with the Czech clients that when where they choose you based on your style or recommendation, or just, they've read about you somewhere, and then they try to steer you, they try to push you, they try to lead you into what they think is the best idea. My best example so far would be if you went to the dentist and you opened your mouth in the chair and you've told him, look, I really think you should be taking the drill number 8 instead of drill number 7, which you chose, but could you maybe try it my way? So that's the usual pain when collaborating with clients. The interesting thing is, I've read it on LinkedIn somewhere that when a client's paying you $500 for your work, they tend to give so many comments and many rounds of change and stuff like that. When a client pays you $50,000 for your work, they just get things done. They pay you and you deliver the work, and it's way less haggle and work with it. But as I like to say, I work with clients of all sizes and budgets.
Do you ever turn down potential clients for ethical reasons or other reasons?
Yes, I did. However, I think I was lucky enough that I wasn't approached by a client who I had to turn down due to ethical reasons. I had to turn them down because of the lack of, let's say, chemistry between us, lack of trust, or just the overall, it just didn't click somehow.
I see that you did the cover for the album Jan Muchov, The Antagonist.
Yes, I did.
Or The Antagonists, whatever it's called. I love it. I play it very often. I think it's one of my favorite Czech records of recent years. But I was wondering, given that most people now experience an album on their phone or on Spotify, whatever, at what size do you actually design it, or what? Do you know what I mean?
I usually start by asking the musician, in this case, what's the largest format they're going to be using. In this case, that was the LP. But on the other hand, a majority of my work are done in vectors, which means that you can enlarge it and resize it as much as you want without losing quality. So I usually start with for the LP, I usually start with a square for the actual LP size, and then try to resize it down in order to be recognizable and legible in the smaller sizes.
I wanted to ask you also about the political aspect of some of your work. For example, you did some stamps that were critical of President Zema, and you referred to the red boxer shorts, and a word I probably can't say even on a podcast, or probably shouldn't say at least. What's your motivation with doing that kind of stuff?
This actually started during the results announcement of our president's second round. I felt that if we're about to spend a single year with this guy, I needed to do something. There was such frustration, such dismay, such hatred. I needed to express it. I needed to somehow get it out of my system, that frustration, hatred, and the overall sadness of mine. And immediately I thought that what's the usual way that where people are in contact with the president? That is usually on the post stamps, because it's been a huge tradition of Czechoslovak presidents being printed on the post stamps. And I thought it'll be very interesting to see if I'd be able to illustrate some of his problems, issues, and F-ups on the stamps. Immediately I had a list of 20, 25 problems, and unfortunately it kept going. So I had some work to pick the quotation marks best ones. Yeah, so it was quick, and it catched on. People liked it. The frustration was shared, and in a psychoanalytical point of view, I guess it helped. It was a crowd therapy, I'd say. People liked it. People enjoyed it. People shared it. We've printed some of them. People hung them up on their walls, used them as fridge magnets, stuff like that.
The amazing thing is they look so much like real stamps. If you didn't look closely, you would simply think they are colourful, nicely designed stamps.
I've tried to get in talks with the Czech Post, because there's a possibility that Czech Post offers for companies or individuals to print out their own stamps. However, I've been told off record by the guys from Czech Post that they're probably most definitely not going to say yes to that, because they have some sort of a internal council that needs to say yes on any design that's been brought up by people from the outside. At first, originally, I thought that those stamps could become small stickers that people will stick on the postcards or letters next to the real stamps.
And Pavel, you also did a series called The University of Life. It's a series of fake but very authentic looking book covers with titles like Multicultural Conspiracies of World Elites, The Caps Lock Function in Discussion.
Yes.
What are you saying with these book covers?
Well, again, as with the stamps, that was my way of treating the frustration that emerged from the Czech society, mainly Czech society, during the COVID crises. I felt that there's been a lack of trust, there's been a lack of belief, there's been a terrible openness to all sorts of undermining, fake news or theories, or just an overall disbelief towards doctors, medicine...
Science. Science.
Yes.
Reality.
Yes, science. Yes. And unfortunately, all of those, a majority of people who were fighting viciously and they were in rage towards against anything that was decided or tried on Facebook and Instagram and on social media. There's been I've seen a repetitive pattern that a lot of these enraged people had, instead of real education, they had a sort of a university of life written next to their
They're basically
degree.
proud of being ignorant.
They're proud of experiencing life instead of being told by someone else, what to do, by anyone more experienced, by anyone more intellectually savvy.
By the elite.
By the elite, yes. So that's the overall hatred towards the elite, towards the clever, towards the smart, towards the scientific, towards the unknown, I would say, for them. Yeah, so actually this project took 1 week. It was me, and I've put together a team of similarly thinking people. It was my father, there was my girlfriend, there was quite about like 7 or 8 people together, and I've created a messenger group, and we just sent each other the worst examples of such ignorance, of such hatred, of such aggressiveness. And after 2 days, we had like 120 titles for these fake books, because I thought what a good idea would be to actually play with the idea of University of Life and creating a curriculum for these quotation mark students. So we thought we came up with like 120 titles, real sounding titles, and then I chose 27. I have no idea why such number was chosen, but these were the best of the best, and I've designed them in a way that would collude with the approach that these students push, which says it isn't the truth, but it could be the truth. That's the usual disbalancing the lifelong approach that something is true and something isn't true. So I wanted to make these book covers, make these fake course book covers, in a way that a real normal thinking person would look at it and they'll be like, wait, this must be fun, this must be a joke, right? Because it looks so believable, it looks so trustworthy, it looks so real. That was the idea. So so we came up even with the name of the faculties of this so-called University of Life. The book covers are derived and based on the existing typography, color, symbolic book covers from, let's say, 60s, 70s, 80s, so they'd be as well believable. On one of the prints, there are actually 2 QR codes, because people used to forge these QR codes in order to get to their beloved pub, to be able to drink their distillates or spirits, but without getting anything potentially harmful into their bodies, such as a jab. So it's been a great success, and it helped me regain trust in the Czech society, because there's been a lot of support, a lot of similar minded people loved it, enjoyed it, expressed their support, expressed their belief that there is still hope.
In this series of interviews, I've spoken to a lot of talented young people. Most of them, or probably all of them, are well-known faces because of their jobs, if they're singers or whatever. Designers don't get that kind of recognition. Do you find that frustrating, or do you not mind?
No. It's I don't mind. I personally enjoy those little blips of interest, or when someone recognizes me, or when someone actually says that he or she enjoys my work. It's a great reward, and I enjoy that very much.
You obviously work abroad a lot. How has that affected your relationship to the Czech Republic, or has it?
It hasn't. I usually enjoy working on a short or shorter stints abroad, and then I enjoy getting back to Prague and building on the experience that I've gained abroad in Dubai, or in the Middle East, or in Armenia, Georgia, countries like that.
I was reading that you are a fan of football strips, and I wanted to ask you, have you got a favourite? Obviously there are hundreds you could choose from.
I usually enjoy when a football kit or strip is as basic as possible. My particular favourites are the ones that are simple but bring any sort of connection to the fans. Maybe they play with the kit from the 30s and they play on it, they play with it in a modern way. I'm not a big fan of those hugely patterned or mixed like almost a patchwork style.
Some of them are almost psychedelic.
They are.
This crazy mix of colors.
Yeah. So maybe a nice gradient is always a nice touch, and I've personally made a nice project with the football kids, because the first soccer World Cup happened in the year 1930. And in the year 2018, I thought what it would be like if the World Cup took place in 1918 with the then existing countries. So I've designed a football kits for Austria-Hungary, which never had a regular football match, Persia, Ottoman Empire and stuff like that. I took a modern approach to that, so I divided into 4 groups, and I didn't play on the results, but the actual kits, the actual sets, football kits, were interesting enough.
If you're unfamiliar with Pavel Fuksa's really fabulous work, I highly recommend that you look it up online. Czech Next Wave is a podcast produced jointly by the Czech Centres Network and Radio Prague International. This has been episode 19, so if you've enjoyed this conversation, there are of course lots more where this came from. Our theme music is by another very talented young Czech, keyboard master extraordinaire Ondřej Pivec. From me, Ian Willoughby, thank you so much for listening to Czech Next Wave, and all the best for now.